Next year. That's when you'll start. Next year, when things settle, when you feel ready, when the timing is right, when you finally become the version of yourself that deserves the life you keep imagining. But here's what nobody says out loud. Next year has been coming for a long time, and it keeps arriving as this year, as this month, as this Monday that becomes next Monday, as this morning that becomes tonight, that becomes tomorrow, that becomes next year again. That hollow feeling underneath all of it, the one that shows up at 2 a.m. when the distractions finally go quiet. That isn't laziness. It isn't fear. It's postponement. And Nietzsche, who spent his entire life studying the gap between the person you are and the person you are capable of being, saw exactly why you do this, not as a flaw, as a symptom of something much deeper than you think. He never told you this directly, because it would shatter the illusion you've built to make the waiting feel safe. Before I show you what he saw, I want to give you something you can use before this video ends. Because understanding why you postpone, without anything to do about it, is just another thing to think about later. Nietzsche left 3 ideas inside his writing that most people never find. Not because they're hidden, because they sound too simple until the moment they aren't. The first practice, amor fati. The next time you catch yourself delaying a task, a conversation, a decision you've been circling, pause 5 seconds and say internally, not out loud, just to yourself, this is what I choose, right now. Not, I'll do it later. Not, when I'm ready. This, right now. Amor fati means love of fate. But Nietzsche didn't mean love what happens to you. He meant, claim it. Own the moment you're in before your mind convinces you there's a better moment coming. There isn't. There is only this one. And you just chose it. The second practice, the eternal recurrence question. Before you postpone anything today, ask yourself one question, just one. Would I be willing to live this exact moment forever? Not the big moments. This one. The one where you're about to say later. The one where you're about to close the tab. The one where you're about to hit snooze on your own life. Would you live that moment on infinite repeat for the rest of eternity? If the answer is no, then change it. Right now. Not tomorrow. Now. Because Nietzsche said, the life you are building in this moment is the life you are choosing forever. The third practice, the will to power pause. 3 seconds. That's all this takes. The next time you feel the pull toward later, place your hand on your chest. Feel your pulse. Just for 3 seconds. That rhythm underneath your hand is not waiting for you to be ready. It is not pausing until conditions improve. It is not postponing until next year. It is moving. Right now. Without permission. Without preparation. Without needing the moment to be perfect. That pulse is your will. Not your excuse. Your will. And it has been trying to tell you something every single day that you have been too busy postponing to hear. Because Nietzsche saw something darker underneath your postponement than weakness, than laziness, than fear. He called it the greatest danger to human freedom. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Try these today, all 3, in order. Then come back. Because I need to show you why they actually work. Nietzsche believed every human being carries inside them a force he called the will to power. Not power over others, not dominance or control. Something more precise. The will to become. The drive underneath all human behavior that does not want comfort, that does not want safety, that wants creation, expansion, the becoming of something that did not exist before. And he said this force is not optional. It is not a personality trait. It is not something you have or don't have. It is what you are. The question is only what you do with it. Most people turn it inward, They take the force that was meant to build something, and they use it to construct an elaborate architecture of waiting. Reasons why now isn't the right time. Evidence that they aren't ready yet. A detailed plan for the future self, who will finally begin. Nietzsche called this the most creative misuse of human energy he had ever witnessed. You are not failing to act. You are acting constantly. You are building the postponement with the same force that was meant to build the life. Pause. Now think about the eternal recurrence. Most people hear this idea and think, it's a thought experiment, a cosmic theory about infinite time. But Nietzsche wasn't interested in cosmology. He was interested in you, right now, in this moment. He asked one question that he knew would cut through every excuse the mind could generate. If you had to live this exact life, every choice, every delay, every morning you hit snooze, over and over forever, would you choose it? Not the highlights, not the moments you're proud of, the ordinary moments, the postponed moments, the later moments, the next year moments. Would you choose those on infinite repeat? Because he said, you already are. Every time you choose later, you are voting for a life built entirely of waiting. And the eternal recurrence is simply the mirror that shows you what you're building. And then there is amor fati, love of fate. People misread this as acceptance, as surrender, as making peace with whatever happens. Nietzsche meant something harder. He meant, stop waiting for fate to deliver the conditions you need to begin. Love the conditions you have. Not because they're perfect, because they're yours. Because the life that is possible for you is only possible through the exact circumstances you keep trying to escape. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. But Nietzsche would add something to that today. He who has a when to live never does. The when is always later. The when is always next year. The when is always after. And the why, the actual reason you are alive, gets buried underneath the waiting. But here is where it gets hard. Because most people hear Nietzsche and think the answer is willpower. More discipline, more force, more drive. He said the opposite. And what he actually said will change the way you understand everything you've been avoiding. Here is what Nietzsche actually said. The will to power is not the will to dominate others. It is the will to overcome yourself. Read that again. Not others. Yourself. The version of yourself that is comfortable in the waiting. The version that has learned to feel productive while standing still. That has mastered the art of planning the life without living it. That has convinced itself that the preparation is the work. That the research is the action. That the thinking about beginning is a form of beginning. It isn't. And you know it isn't. That knowledge is the thing that wakes you up at 2 a.m. Postponement is not laziness. Lazy people don't feel the hollow. Lazy people are comfortable. You are not comfortable. You are in pain. The specific pain of someone who knows exactly what they are capable of and has chosen, again and again, not to find out if it's true. Because finding out requires beginning. And beginning requires becoming the person who began. And that person is terrifying. Not because they might fail, because they might not. Because the life on the other side of the waiting might actually be real. And then there are no more excuses, no more next year, no more almost ready. Just the life, just you, just now. Nietzsche said postponement is not the fear of failure. It is the fear of your own becoming. You are not avoiding the work. You are avoiding the person you become when you finally stop waiting. But this is not where the story ends. Because Nietzsche didn't leave you with the diagnosis alone. He left something else, something that doesn't sound like philosophy at all. It sounds like permission. This is what happens when you stop postponing. Not productivity, not hustle, not the Instagram version of a life finally unlocked. Something quieter, something most people never feel because they never stop waiting long enough to feel it. Presence, the specific feeling of being actually here in your own life, not watching it from a distance, not planning the version of it that starts next year. Here, now, in the mess of it, in the unfinished parts, in the version that doesn't look the way you imagined it would. The life you have been waiting for does not start next year. It does not start when you are ready. It does not start when conditions improve, or fear disappears, or the timing finally aligns. It starts in 3 seconds, the 3 seconds between impulse and action, between snooze and rising, between later and now, between the person you have been and the person you are choosing to become in this exact moment. That gap, 3 seconds wide, is where your will wakes up. That is where Nietzsche was pointing his entire life. Not at greatness, not at achievement, at that gap, at what becomes possible when you choose to inhabit it instead of escape it. Nietzsche never promised happiness. He was honest enough not to lie to you about that. But he promised something rarer, something that happiness cannot give you and comfort cannot replace. The courage to live now, even if it's incomplete, even if it's uncertain, even if the version of you that begins today is not the version you imagined. Because that version, the one that begins, is the only version that actually exists. Go back to that moment, the one where next year felt safer than now, the one where almost ready felt close enough, the one where the waiting felt like wisdom instead of what it was. Now you know what that moment was. That was your will standing at the edge of your becoming, asking one question: are you ready to be the person who lives this? Not the person who plans it, not the person who almost started, the person who lives it. The answer isn't later. It was never later. It is now. And you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to have it figured out. You just have to be present. 3 seconds. Your hand on your chest. Your pulse already moving. Your will already awake. Already choosing. Already here. The life you keep postponing is already happening. The only question is whether you're in it.